We're going to look at value for money, and we're going to explore which is the best value for money. So let's start with Paul the plumber. He offers two deals. So a fixed price contract or an hourly rate contract. So the fixed price contract, he'll charge you £240 to do the job. The hourly rate, he'll charge £24 per hour. So when you look at this, it's relatively simple. You can work out, and you could actually put a graph out on this one and look at the graph, and from that you could work out that if the job were to be less than 10 hours, it's going to be cheaper to do the hourly rate. Otherwise, it's good to do a fixed price contract. And we've got a few examples here. For instance, if it was 4 hours, the fixed price is still going to be 240, but the hourly rate, the unit rate of £24, you times that by 4 to get 96 if it's 4 hours. If it's 8 hours, again it's going to be fixed rate for £240, but the unit rate of 24 is now times by 8 to give £192. Still, these two cheaper to do the hourly rate. If you did 14 hours, again the fixed contract is £240, but now the unit rate is times by 14 in the hourly rate, so that comes to £336. So if the job is going to take 14 hours, it's better to do a fixed price contract. That's one simple example how to do best value for money. Let's look at other examples. So here we have Goofy looking at two types of yogurt prices. You can buy 3 for 80p or 1 for 30p. And he's trying to work out what's the best deal. I wonder if you can think, what do you think would be the best deal? Would it be better to get those 3 for 80p? Or would it be better just to buy maybe 3 lots for 30p? Well, in order to answer this question, there are 2 ways we can do this. And we can use the unit method or the scaling up idea. Now, sometimes the unit method's the better idea, sometimes it's better to scale up. But let's go through both methods and you can work out which you prefer, depending on the question. So the unit method is to find out what is the price for one unit. So 80p divided by 3 tells you that for those sets of yogurts, it's 26.7p each. You already know that it's 30p for one in this deal. So in this case, this is the better deal to go for. Can we show it using the scaling up method? Well, for the scaling up method, we're simply going to try and work out, in this example, it's good to find what is it for 3 yogurts, because we already know in this deal it's 80p for 3 yogurts. For this one, I want to go from 1 to 3, so I'm going to times this by 3, and I find it costs me 90p for those 3 yogurts. So we can see from this that actually this is the best deal. And you need to work out which method do you like, and it often depends on the type of question we get. So let's look at this one. So Sylvester wants to buy some toilet rolls, and he knows that he can get 4 for £2.30 or 7 for 400p. Now the first thing you need to think about is we're dealing with pounds here and pennies. So we need to keep the same unit. And often in this case, it's better to deal with pennies because we've not got any decimal numbers to deal with. And that can become a problem for some of us. So let's convert that into pennies first. Okay, so there we go. And now we're going to look at the unit method and the scaling up method. Now remember, the unit method is to find the price for one toilet roll. That's the unit. We've got to find out for one. What is the cost for one? So it's a sharing idea. We've got to share the 230p by 4. And we've got to share the 400p by 7. And sharing in maths means dividing. So we divide 230 by 4 and 400 by 7. And here we can find out that this is the best deal. This is 0.4p cheaper per roll. What about the scaling up method? Can we show the same? Is it easier? Well, for this method, I could find the lowest common multiple of 4 and 7. And I could go about that. Or if I want to be really simple, I'm simply going to say I'm going to buy 7 lots of that and 4 lots of that, because that gives me 28 of each category. So I'm going to say it's £2.30 or 230p times 7 gives me 1,610p for this deal. Whereas here, the 7 lots, I'm going to times by 4 to give me again 28, and that's where we can compare them properly. But if I did the 400 times 4, I get it as 1,600 pennies. So from here we can see that actually this is the best deal. So that's a nice idea. Let's recap. The unit method is simply dividing to find what one would cost and then deciding between the two. With the scaling up, often it's easier, but it seems quite complex to do. With the scaling up, you need to multiply one set by a number that gets to the same amount as the other. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then you've got to try and find the lowest common multiple and times both to get to this, as we showed in the previous example. Okay, let's look at some extension work where you can actually combine the unit method and the scaling up. So, if ducks cost £74 for 3, how much would 7 cost? So I'm going to do it this way, and I like this way a lot. Here we've got 3 ducks described in squares, so that costs £74. So what would one little duck cost? Well, unit method, divide to find 1. So I divide by 3. I'll keep it on my calculator. I'm not going to solve it yet because then I get to this next bit. I multiply for many. Divide for 1 times for many. So I now know, if I know what each of these costs, I then multiply it by 7 and I get the total cost, £172.67p. And by keeping everything in your calculator, you don't get any rounding up errors. It's a lovely method. Divide for 1 times for many. Okay, last extension question. James had received 2 job offers, one in Milan, one in Boston. The one in Milan will pay €55,000 a year. The one in Boston, $64,000. Now, the current exchange rates are that £1 is $1.42 and £1 is €1.25. So which job offer has the highest salary? And you show your workings to explain your answer. Now, this is a really neat way that someone taught me. So let's get rid of all the extra bits and just get the maths numbers. So what I do is I'm going to do the setup. So on one side I've got my Milan job offer and the other Boston. And this is important. This is the unit rate of 1 and 1. I put that here because I'm trying to work out what would it be in terms of pounds. I want to convert both the euros and dollars into pounds and then I can compare. So I want to find out what 55,000 euros is, and I'm going to give the unknown value of x here for my pounds. You're working in Milan, x, and for Boston, y is $64,000, and I want to find the y value. Now underneath, and this is really good, the setup's important here, I put my £1 is the same as 1.25 euros, and in this case, £1 is the same as $1.242. And this is the nice thing I do. I simply put a line underneath each of those, like you see here, and then I can say, well, if this equals that and this equals that, then this fraction must equal that fraction. Similarly here, if y equals 64,000 and 1 equals 1.42, then this equals that, so this fraction, this will equal that fraction. And that's kind of neat, because then all I need to do is I can then simply find the value of x, because it's divided by 1. I can simply divide 55,000 by 1.245, and I get that in Milan I would earn £44,000. Similarly here, I simply divide 64,000 by 1.42 and say that if I worked in Boston, I would actually earn £45,070. So my Boston job would be the better offer. I hope you found this really useful. Rewind it, slow it down, pause it, and that way hopefully you'd have learned something. Thank you all. Have a nice day.